Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. JustusRStone here with my thoughts on volume number 8 of Pandora Hearts. Now, if you're new to this series of videos, these are full-on spoiler discussion videos, so if you have not read volume 8 of Pandora Hearts, you should really do so before you watch this video. The other thing about these videos is I only film these videos when I have finished this particular volume, so I have not read ahead, so I don't know what happens beyond this volume. So anything that I'm kind of guessing at or theorizing on, well, it's just that. It's all guesses and theories because I haven't gotten any further ahead. So first of all, this volume's a little bit different, so let's just get it out of the way right now. So the last about quarter to a third of the book, it appears to be, I guess, sort of Mochizuki's initial concept of Pandora Hearts. It's sort of a one-shot that she did to, I guess, demonstrate the idea or pitch the idea. I'm not too sure what exactly the nature of it is. Her little introduction to it in the manga, it's not exactly clear, but I guess the idea is it's sort of the prototype for what eventually became Pandora Hearts. I'm not really going to get into that, because really I'm mostly concerned about the actual Pandora Hearts story that we have. And even though this volume was not 100% of that story for its entirety, lots happened. Lots happened. So we get back, first of all, let's go back to Break's continuation of his story about what happened to him when he fell into the abyss. And so we have Vincent and Gil arriving in the abyss. We find out that Vincent is like this real asshole to, like, Alice. I mean, we find out that that's how Cheshire Cat lost its eyes, because Vincent used scissors to poke them out, like jerk, and cuts up all of her dolls and everything else. Alice hates Vincent with a passion, and who can blame her? And when Vincent appears, basically Alice loses her mind. Well, okay, it isn't that she loses her mind initially. Like, she loses her mind because she's having a tea party and because she's having almost this delusional thing of, oh, you know, Jack is going to be here soon. And then Vincent is like, Jack's dead. He's never, ever going to come. And she goes ballistic. The whole dimension starts, like, ripping itself apart. So Break appeals to the intention of the abyss, to Alice, as she identifies herself, and basically says, you can have any part of me you want, just I want to do whatever it is you need to do. I just want you to undo this past that I've been trying to get rid of. And so she says something to him and basically, I guess, gives him a mission that she wants him to accomplish, but we don't know what that is still, even by the end of the volume. And when he wakes up, he finds himself in the Rainsworth mansion outside of their door to the abyss, and he's found by Sharon. And it's now 30 years after he was dragged into the abyss. So again, we have this whole time thing shifting and changing. He finds out that, in fact, the past was changed and that his master and the family did survive for 4 more years, until such time as the oldest daughter was killed. And then the youngest daughter, who in his timeline survived, gave into despair and became an illegal contractor and ended up killing the entire family with her chain, and then was eventually dragged into the abyss. So it's sort of an interesting thing to me. Like, when I was reading this, I was like sort of a couple of different minds. So I was like, okay, so with the intention of the abyss, she actually did fulfill his wish. Now, is it like one of those things, you know, when you read stories about genies and lamps and stuff, and it's like, no matter what you wish for, it somehow becomes kind of perverted and changed and become manipulated so that it actually turns out to be a horrible thing? You see this often as sort of like a play on fairy tales. And I wondered is that kind of what it is, or is it just that she did exactly what he wanted and she undid that one event? But just because that one event is undone, again, it doesn't mean everything is going to work out perfectly. I really like the part where then, after this has all been explained, they say to him, well, Break, you know, you must really despise the intention of the abyss. And he's like, well, yeah, I mean, that sort of goes without saying, but at the same time, I've come to realize that it's my fault. I asked her to do this. I asked her to undo their murder, And because of that, they all died anyway. And even the youngest girl, who in my reality did survive, she died too. So in fact, he says, I killed her because of my selfishness and because I was so narrow-viewed about what should be and should not be. And I thought that was kind of interesting, and it plays into this whole thing that we've been talking with Oz in the last couple volumes about that whole, whether you're truly living for yourself or whether you're using the whole idea that you're living for others as an excuse to actually avoid doing things for others and avoiding living life and avoiding facing harder realities. So it kind of ties into that whole theme that we have about this whole sense of personal accountability and identity, and sort of this notion that you can't use others as an excuse and that you really just have to live life for yourself on your own rules and by your own way. But perhaps the biggest and I was like, what is going on kind of reveal of this whole thing was Alice herself. So I've been postulating for the past couple of volumes that I thought the intention of the Abyss was a fragment of Alice, but no, it doesn't really seem that way. So what it seems to be is, well, they come right out and say they're twins, that they are both Alice, and that at one point they actually say they were born twins from a woman within the Abyss itself, and then the one daughter was taken outside and was sort of kept by the Baskervilles in a tower, while the other was left to live in the Abyss. And because of their ties to each other, the sort of personality of the intention of the Abyss would show up in Alice, who was outside of the Abyss. We find this out through Jack, basically, because we find out that he's left this diary behind, and that in the diary he discusses how Alice at various times would be a different person. And we actually see her display that sort of strong and arrogant personality that we associate with the bee rabbit. And when we see this more sort of girliness of the intention of the Abyss when she's having her tea party, when Break is there, you see where, okay, now she is the more, even though she does all this crazy evil stuff, you think, but she actually seems to be the more prim and proper girly girl of the set. So it's interesting to see where these personalities seem to influence each other, and it explains this whole thing about why Cheshire hates black-haired Alice, Bee Rabbit Alice, and yet is so devoted to the intention of the Abyss Alice. And even Jack says that he noticed there were times when the cat adored Alice more than anything, and then at other times seemed to absolutely despise her. So we have these, seemingly now what we're having is they are two separate people, but because of their ties as twins and because they were born within the Abyss, they are somehow intrinsically tied to one another, where their personalities seem to be able to flux from one to the other. Now, I'm guessing that bond has since been broken, possibly because Alice was murdered, black-haired Alice was murdered, I think by Vincent, but we're not exactly sure at this point. And we'll get to that. But so at this point, we're sort of sitting there, I'm sort of sitting there going, so how does Alice, if she was killed in Sablier, end up in the Abyss? Because it seems that the only way that people become chains and end up in the Abyss is if they became illegal contractors and were brought into the Abyss. And now we still don't know all the answers. And I mean, I don't know, like Alice, all we know that was Alice was locked up in the Baskerville Tower, that somehow Glenn thought that he could use her to control the Abyss, control the intention of the Abyss, and that clearly somehow that backfired. And then, of course, we end with sort of this fun, well, I mean, it's fun on the one hand, not so fun on the other. We have Gil going to visit Vincent and kind of say, hey, you know, you've always told me that you don't remember anything, but do you remember? Do because it seems to me like you should. And because, of course, now he knows that he and Vincent were in Sablier. He knows that they were in the Abyss. So now, of course, Gil's got all these questions, right? And then on the other hand, we have Oz attending this festival, and he sees Echo, and the two of them basically hang out for the day. And it is so cute, and I really like Echo. And she's just so adorable when he buys her that dress and everything else, and the way that she's always so sort of cold and monotone, but how she gets all really embarrassed and blushy when he gives her the feather. And it was really cute and a really nice sort of character moment. And I'm really hoping we see more of Echo going forward. I'm pretty sure we will. And I'm pretty sure that somehow her relationship with Oz will, I don't know how that's going to play out. I kind of see like the tragic end for Echo saving Oz, but I don't know if that's actually going to be how it plays out. But it wouldn't surprise me, because they're making her to be a very sympathetic character, and sympathetic characters don't seem to do very well in series like this. So then we have Gilbert and Vincent is basically sort of dogging Gil about his devotion to Oz and stuff. And then Gil has this like weird flashback, and I mean, it's hard to know, like, he's like, I'm going to kill this person, and I'm going to kill this person, and anybody who gets in my way between me and Oz, I'm going to kill them, even I'm going to kill Alice. And I got the impression reading it, because, I mean, some of the names he's naming are, of course, like Ada, Uncle Oscar, right? So modern. But I almost got the impression from it, I was like, were you the one who actually killed Alice, like in Sablier? Like, did you maybe feel something for Jack? Like, is that why you're so tied to Oz? Because you had that same adoration for Jack? I don't know. And I'm kind of interested to see how this plays out. But I mean, the whole series seems to be very cyclical, right? So the events of yesterday are repeating now again today. And like even Break, when he's sort of out in the woods and upset because he realizes that it's his fault that the youngest daughter of the Sinclair family died, he runs into Vincent at that point, who says he's now living with the Night Rays. And Vincent seems to be ignorant of who Break is. He doesn't seem to recognize him from the Abyss. And Break kind of comments like, well, it's no wonder. I mean, crazy stuff was going down. But even Break at that point sort of acknowledges, he's like, here we are all these years later. I'm in one family. He's in another family. Like, is there something at play here? There seems to be something more going on, like some sort of fate. I also found it interesting now that, I actually read this one a couple times to take a look at stuff. I actually kind of found it interesting too that Break's nickname is Break, and that I think it's Vincent talking. Like, it certainly seems to be his voice for this part, where when he's in the Abyss and he's kind of going crazy just before he, intentionally tries to hurt Alice by saying that Jack is dead, he's kind of like, yeah, let's break the world, because then everybody will be broken just like me. And yet then we have Break, Xerxes, Kevin Legnard, who has adopted this name Break. And I kind of wonder if that's somehow going to play out as well, right? Like maybe, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work out, but it just seems to be kind of too much of a coincidence to be a coincidence, if you know what I mean. It certainly seems like Break does have a mission, and it seems that he is, at least at some level, still committed to fulfilling whatever promise he made to the intention of the Abyss. And so I'm going to wonder whether that's something that's going to be helpful or bad for our other main characters down the road. So lots going on in this book, lots of stuff to discuss. And like I said, that crazy flashback of Gil kind of ending the book, and you're like, wow, like, is Gil the crazy murderer type? Like, maybe. I guess we'll see. So I know that I'm probably missing other stuff every time I read these books, I try to pick out the most important stuff, but I always am like, afterwards, I'm like, I know I missed things. So if there's anything else that happened in this volume you want to discuss in the comments, please do so. And we'll put spoilers, that there's, spoilers in the comments too. It's all good, whatever. I put that these videos are full of spoilers, so that's the way it is. I will be back shortly with volume number 9 because, again, the cliffhangers just keep getting bigger and bigger, and I cannot just leave these for long without moving ahead and reading more because I need to know what happens next. So those are my discussion points for volume number 8. What do you think of the events in this volume? Do you have anything that happened in this volume that I haven't addressed that you want to talk about? If you sort of agree, disagree with some of the things that I'm saying, hey, by all means, let's discuss it. I love that. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, you know where to subscribe and check out all my other old videos. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, bye-bye for now.